Okay, The Ghost Monument is the second episode of Season 11, written by Chris Chibnall, directed beautifully by Mark Tonderai. And everyone's been talking about how beautiful the thing is. Slash Film calls it cinematic. The Independent calls it stunning. A feast for the senses, raves sand enthusiast. The new cast continues to impress. Jodie continues to solidify her doctorishness. Ryan shoots a bunch of robots because he's played Call of Duty. Graham looks a bit like Roy Orbison, and Yaz is also here.
Oh, sorry, Az, I forgot you were there.
Supposedly, Yaz has a big episode coming up soon where we actually meet her family, which in a shocking twist that makes her totally different from every other Who companion, is a bit dysfunctional. Also, the episode has I've committed to reviewing this season, and there's gonna be spiders in it. Well, shit. The episode picks up from where last week's episode left off. In space! With the Doctor and friends rescued from certain death at a probability level of 2 to the power of 276,709 to 1 against and falling. They're rescued by two different spaceships piloted by Budget Russell Crowe and Holtzman from Ghostbusters, two crusty space scoundrels locked in competition in a race across the galaxy. The winner gets quite a bit of money to bring back home to their people, and the loser gets, I don't know, force-fed a Nightlock berry smoothie or something. No, seriously, there is a big Hunger Games vibe going on here, what with Richie Rich Mr. Hologram Man and his magical tent overseeing a race between two people from horrific dystopian worlds. Like, Holtzman lost most of her family, and Russell Crowe's family was so tough his mom did the thing where she made him climb a tree and jump and then let him fall and break his arm to make him a man.
That is messed up.
Best thing she ever did for me.
Yeah, she sounds terrific.
Oh, quit your whining, Snowflake. My mother did that to me, and I turned out okay. In a completely unrelated story, women, you can't trust them! And where, pray tell, is the finish line for this dry calamari desert challenge? Why, it's a thing called the Ghost Monument, which, it's the TARDIS. It's the TARDIS. One thing I do like about this scene is how very friendly it is to the idea that people may have just started watching Doctor Who. Like, if you have no idea what a TARDIS is, which admittedly is kind of a stretch at this point if you know anybody who's British or a geek or anyone. But like, let's just say you woke up like out of a coma and you were born in 1990 and you were looking around, you're like, what the hell? That puts you in, if you don't know what a TARDIS is, that kind of puts you in the same boat as the companions here, and it's got to come across as a little bit uncanny and weird. Like this old Earth object on a distant alien world, and the Doctor knows what it is, and no one else does. It harkens back to the opening shot of the show back in 1963. Why is there a police box in the junkyard? Why is it humming? Why is it important? Let's get a shift on and find out, because it's phasing in and out of time. And also, that Susan Foreman seems like quite a timeless child, doesn't she? But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The action sequences are some of the best ones the show has ever done. This North by Northwest bit in the desert is amazing. Russell Crowe on a budget getting strangled by the Wind Beast should be the cheapest looking monster attack since the "oh no, it's bubble wrap" scene from The Ark in Space, but it isn't because that actor's giving it his freaking all and the editing is really great. The spaceships are also pretty cool, though could you stop the camera shaking, please? We get it. They're crashing. Gotta go. And yet, this is still a very contemplative episode. Maybe at times a little too contemplative. It's honestly the most Hartnell-ish story the show has done in years. The plot takes you from point A to point Z, things happen along the way. The story unfolds gradually, and the Doctor saves the day with science! Another comparison might be to something like The Caves of Androzani. There's no Shara's Jek, the scope is smaller, and our heroes are heading towards home instead of their inevitable demise. But like, if you squint, you can almost imagine that this is pretty much what Caves would have looked like in HD with a bigger budget. Russell and Holtzman's outfits even have that kind of orange, gray, yellow, late 70s, early 80s design thing going on. That aesthetic embraced by Atari and Star Wars and early Epcot attractions that declares, "We have seen the future, and the future is beige." And the plot takes our heroes to some interesting places where they learn some interesting stuff. I just wonder if they could have maybe dropped in a couple of bits here and there, setting up the really interesting stuff at the end slightly better. But this episode's heart is absolutely in the right place, and there's a subtle and not really so subtle message here too, about the devastating effects of greed and late and post-late capitalism forcing the working class to fight against each other, while the rich folks literally can't be touched. We even learn that the planet itself used to be a verdant, vibrant world before it went all Nimbus 3, and that the cause was, well, humanity, or whatever humanoid scientists lived on this planet, to be specific. Oh, wacky side note. This story came out the same week we learned that Earth's got about 20 good years left and we're all screwed. So...
Why are you forcing this liberal environmentalist agenda down our throats? Since when has Doctor Who been political?
Since, I don't know, like the very second story the show ever made was about how nuclear weapons were bad and racial purity was an evil concept that led to genocide. But that's all deep Who history stuff, right? It's a new Doctor, new production team, and this time it's all standalone episodes with no continuity baggage whatsoever.
The stanza.
Oh. If I have any complaints about this episode, it has nothing to do with the cast and absolutely nothing to do with the directing and definitely nothing to do with sort of the message of it. I mean, the secondary antagonist here is a rich dude who really, really wants to play a working class white man and a queer feminist off each other. And yet they win the rally by, guess what, joining hands and demanding he spread the wealth. They might be trying to tell us something here. It's kind of mostly in terms of structure, it kind of falls a little bit. So, okay, the main baddies are these sentient gas creatures, right? Chekhov Freud's law states if you introduce a self-lighting cigar in Act 1, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but sometimes it's the thing that's gonna save the day, and in this case, Graham saves the day by breaking wind. Like a man. And everyone's safe on the ground because, well, lighter than air. I think that works in real life. Don't try this at home, kids. But let's rewind a bit. The acetylene gas creatures that look like, okay, they don't really look like anything, but they kind of have this Jacob Marley thing going on anyway, right? They like to get in your head and screw with your mind. I honestly wish they'd set this up earlier in the story. What would have been cool is to hear them, like, talk a little sooner. They're invisible wisps of air that play into your worst insecurities, but that's a character trait they don't introduce until really late in the game. Would have been kind of cool to hear them, like, blow past Ryan when he's climbing the ladder and say, "You can't do it." Or blow past Yaz and say, "What was your name again?" I liked this episode way more the second time I watched it than the first time. Oh, I gotta say, Jodie's doing really well. She's vibrant, empathetic, commands the screen at every moment. I like the way she asserts authority while attending to her friend's safety. She's apparently learned since she was Peter Capaldi. And she does it in a way that doesn't seem any more like forced emotional labor than it was when Troughton bonded with Victoria in that tomb on Telos thousands of years ago. When they actually get to the place they're headed and there's no TARDIS to be found, there probably could have been a stronger moment, though. And this is the writing, not really Jodie, but like maybe a line in addition to the "I've let you down" scene about how there was no way of knowing if the ship would be in or out of phase. And again, that's like the gas creatures. A few moments kind of sprinkled in here and there to set up the thing would have helped this story immensely, especially considering that all the things that need setting up are kind of awesome. That console room really takes the biscuit though, huh? I honestly had a stronger line to finish this. I don't remember what it was though.
What did you think of the Ghost Monument? Tell us in the comments.